In early September 2017, in the 8th month of the Trump presidency, Gary Cohn, the former president of Goldman Sachs and the president's top economic advisor in the White House, moved cautiously toward the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. In his 27 years at Goldman, Cohn, 6'3", bald, brash, and full of self-confidence, had made billions for his clients and hundreds of millions for himself. He had granted himself walk-in privileges to Trump's Oval Office, and the president had accepted that arrangement. On the desk was a one-page draft letter from the president addressed to the president of South Korea, terminating the United States-Korea Free Trade Agreement known as KORUS. Cohn was appalled. For months, Trump had threatened to withdraw from the agreement, one of the foundations of an economic relationship, a military alliance, and, most important, top-secret intelligence operations and capabilities. Under a treaty dating back to the 1950s, the United States stationed 28,500 U.S. troops in the South and operated the most highly classified and sensitive Special Access Programs, SAP, which provided sophisticated, top-secret, code-word intelligence and military capabilities. North Korean ICBM missiles now had the capability to carry a nuclear weapon, perhaps to the American homeland. A missile from North Korea would take 38 minutes to reach Los Angeles. These programs enabled the United States to detect an ICBM launch in North Korea within 7 seconds. The equivalent capability in Alaska took 15 minutes, an astonishing time differential. The ability to detect a launch in 7 seconds would give the United States military the time to shoot down a North Korean missile. It is perhaps the most important and most secret operation in the United States government. The American presence in South Korea represents the essence of national security. Withdrawal from the KORUS trade agreement, which South Korea deemed essential to its economy, could lead to an unraveling of the entire relationship. Cohn could not believe that President Trump would risk losing vital intelligence assets crucial to U.S. national security. This all stemmed from Trump's fury that the United States had an $18 billion annual trade deficit with South Korea and was spending $3.5 billion a year to keep U.S. troops there. Despite almost daily reports of chaos and discord in the White House, the public did not know how bad the internal situation actually was. Trump was always shifting, rarely fixed, erratic. He would get in a bad mood, something large or small would infuriate him, and he would say about the KORUS trade agreement, "We're withdrawing today." But now there was the letter, dated September 5, 2017, a potential trigger to a national security catastrophe. Cohn was worried Trump would sign the letter if he saw it. Cohn removed the letter draft from the Resolute desk. He placed it in a blue folder marked Keep. "I stole it off his desk," he later told an associate. "I wouldn't let him see it. He's never going to see that document. Got to protect the country." In the
We got to talk about this. So one thing that a lot of people have said about a second Trump presidency is that, oh, well, Trump's first presidency wasn't that bad. Why is it going to be so much worse this time? And this first 3 minutes, 35 seconds of Bob Woodward's book, Fear Trump in the White House, I think is a pretty good descriptor of what is going to be different this second time. See, when Trump says that he wanted to drain the swamp, he didn't actually know what people in Washington were the swamp, according to him. He doesn't care about the creatures of Washington, the career politicians. He bragged about knowing how to properly bribe all of the politicians. He said openly, I give them money, I donate to their campaigns, they let me build in their cities. That's something that Trump is used to. He's comfortable with that. What he really wanted to do as president is do whatever he wanted. That's all he wanted to do. He wanted to have these capricious moments where he would wake up and see something on the news that would set him off. He would see a number that we're spending $3 billion in South Korea maintaining this missile system, and he wouldn't have the larger context for why we're doing this, and he would just say, get it out of here, I don't want it anymore. And then people would jump. Well, he would like people to jump and just follow his orders immediately. And I don't think this needs to be said, but someone who is as stupid and evil as Donald Trump, with just straight up unlimited power doing whatever he wants at the drop of a hat, is a net negative for this country. There are reasons why we have things, and as annoying as the liberals are, and the establishment is, and just everything that our politics has developed into, as annoying and as harmful as that is, there are reasons why it has developed to be like that. And someone who comes in like Trump, who doesn't actually have an ideology other than whatever I say goes, he's going to tear pretty much everything down and send our country back decades in the past, in both in terms of civil rights and just in terms of it functioning properly. As annoying as bureaucrats are, they are useful at having systems that they operate in function properly. So what's going to be the difference between Trump's first plan or first term in presidency and his second term in presidency? Well, his first term in presidency, he didn't know what people, what bureaucrats, what creatures of Washington he could lean on to get things done, and which ones would serve to undermine him. And we see this great example here that Bob Woodward uses in his prologue, where these guys were literally taking letters off of his desk, and once they were off of his desk, Trump would forget about them because he's a moron. He's a dunce. He doesn't have the brain capacity to remember these things. And so basically it is undermining the will of the president, but when that president is intent on seeing the world burn to satisfy his own ego, I would argue it's the most patriotic thing in the world to undermine that destructive will of the president. You also have stories coming out where Trump is talking about wanting to strike first on North Korea. War is inevitable. We need to strike first. I'm going to get my generals to strike first and take out their missile launching sites. And then you have the generals talking about how they had to convince Trump to work diplomatically with North Korea, and how everyone would see what a great deal maker Trump is if he actually is able to come up with a diplomatic solution. And so, again, it's top officials undermining the will of the president in order to maintain peace across the world. So what is going to be different this time? Well, Trump and the Heritage Foundation have been working on identifying basically sycophants that are going to do whatever Trump wants them to. And whenever they come across a resistance figure in the White House, in Washington, in the military, they're going to just cut the legs out from underneath them and replace them with someone who is only loyal to Trump. And the Majority Report did a story on this. Thank you so much, MR Crew. I'm going to be borrowing a few videos that they're talking about.
We want the bureaucrats to be...
So this is Russell Vought. He is the Director of Management and Budget, or he was underneath the Trump administration. He previously served as Deputy Director and Acting Director prior to his confirmation as Director of OMB in July 2020. In his role, he is responsible for overseeing the implementation of the president's policy, management, and regulatory agendas across the executive branch. And then prior to serving in the Trump administration, he spent 20 years working in Washington, D.C. in various different conservative organizations. So again, when Trump talks about draining the swamp, he doesn't actually give a fuck. What he means is that he wants to get rid of everyone that is not going to be sycophantic to him and not going to do his will. So this guy is basically a pretty high up there Trump official. And he talks about how he's going to dismantle the bureaucratic state, i.e. get rid of all of these safety rails that we've put in place throughout the years so that government is just going to function as is. And it's not going to have, not every single level of government is going to change based off of who the president is. So the EPA is going to be doing the same research. They have the same mandate of trying to protect the environment, protect the climate.
Dramatically affected. We want, when they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to
Now,
be
pause it
shut
for a second.
down
I
so
just
that
want to say, you hear somebody laugh because somebody there like thinks like, oh, this is funny. He doesn't crack a smile. He doesn't crack a smile. This guy, he's not joking. He understands that personnel is policy. And if he can dismantle the sort of like the apparatus by attacking the people who make up the apparatus, that's his job. Go ahead.
them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down so that the EPA can't do all of the rules against our energy industry because they have no bandwidth financially to do so. We want to put them in trauma.
I mean,
okay, so Sam Cedar has a great show on this. I would definitely recommend checking it out. I'll link it in the description, actually. And let's just watch another clip from this show. Here we go. This is what I wanted to watch.
Something very similar, although a little bit more dramatic, where Steve Bannon is basically saying, if you're part of this movement, you got to be prepared to give it all. Just watch this.
And our coalition is now going to include a wide swath of African-American men and Hispanic men. This is the game changer. I'll give you a lot of details about that, of things I learned in prison. Let me say something. If you're not prepared to be sent to a federal prison as a political prisoner, then you're not worthy to be in this movement and to step forward and try to save your country. You have to understand, they want to put you in prison, and they will put you in prison. If you can't accept that, then you don't know what they represent.
All right,
they talk
well, there
about
it is.
President
I mean,
Trump.
Okay, so essentially, what is the issue here? Well, this guy, Russell Vought, is talking about how he's going to dismantle the administrative state. Steve Bannon is talking about how you need to be prepared to go to prison. Elon Musk is talking about how, oh yeah, don't worry, the economy is going to get way worse before it gets better. These people know that their policies are not good for the American people. These people know that their policies are going to completely dismantle the administrative state and pretty much everything that makes our government run as normal, makes it run well. They're going to take it apart. And and they know that what they're doing is illegal, or at least potentially illegal. They just don't care. When Trump is in the presidency, you're going to have all of these right-wing Trump sycophants, these people whose shoulders have been resting on Trump's ass cheeks because their head is so far in his anus, that they're going to just be emboldened and go ahead with policies that may or may not be legal, and they're not going to really care about it. Again, more evidence of Trump just completely
reorganize
all of these programs.
President Trump has asked me to reorganize the federal health agencies, the agencies that have a portfolio that affects human health, which is CDC, NIH, FDA, as well as some of the agencies within the United States Department of Agriculture. He's asked me to clean up the corruption, number one. Number two, end the conflicts of interest, return those agencies to their rich tradition of gold standard, empirically based, evidence-based science, evidence-based medicine, and to end the chronic disease epidemic in this country. And he's asked me specifically to measurably reduce chronic disease in our children within 2 years.
Okay, and then we get this anti-vaxxer nutjob who's claimed that coronavirus is genetically engineered by the Ashkenazi Jews so that they're less affected by it, is now going to be in charge of all of these governmental programs that are supposed to keep Americans healthy.
Trump has asked me.
This is going to be what a second Trump presidency is. And I know that a big issue is abortion for people. A big issue is Gaza for people. A big issue is healthcare, and they're disappointed that neither candidate is really towards healthcare. But honestly, when I see these videos of people going around and asking Democratic voters, oh, what's your biggest issue? What issue is most important to you? If someone asked me that at this point in the election, my response would be, I don't want America to fall apart. And I know that this is a hyperbole that that Republicans tend to levy against Democrats. America's falling apart. Trump says we're in a declining nation. Our nation's in decline. It's never been so bad. And I know that that's like a common thing to hear from the Republicans. Oh, our nation's just falling apart. Our nation's going to fall apart. But I think that this election is an actual time where Democrats have enough evidence to send that same allegation back against the Republicans. And it's not really just the Republicans. It's specifically, in this instance, it is specifically all of these people that are in Trump's orbit. And I think it's fine to call them fascism. It's Trump getting his cronies in all the necessary levers of power so that he can do whatever he wants. Let's take a look at this ProPublica reporting that they did on VOD. New private videos revealed Trump advisor Russ Vought's shadow plans for using the military on protesters, defunding the EPA, and villainizing civil servants. He wants to put them in trauma. This one. The plans detailed in the speeches by former Trump official Russell Vought track closely with Trump's campaign rhetoric about using the military against domestic protesters, or what Trump has called the enemy within. So not only are they going to get rid of all of these institutions, they're going to corrupt one of the biggest and most powerful institutions in the United States, which is the American military. And Trump says that he wants to use the American military on domestic protesters. Of course, he's not going to end there. And I don't want to be too alarmist, but it does seem like if Trump gets into office, wins the presidency, he's going to use the military to go after his political rivals. And this is going to be a constitutional crisis when this happens, because the military isn't sworn to the presidency, they're sworn to the Constitution and to follow lawful orders from the presidency. But what if that president orders the military to go after American citizens? What are they going to do? Especially American citizens whose only crime has been making Trump angry at them by calling him out. So, not going to go much more than this, but I think I've done a good enough job of explaining how Trump is going to dismantle pretty much every American institution and bend them all towards his will. And I am not and I know it's been done a lot comparing Trump to Nazis, but this is exactly what Hitler did before he took power. He got his people, his loyal people, in the correct positions of government. He got someone in charge of the military or someone in charge of the police. And then he gained power by getting appointed chancellor. And he had all of these lists of names ready to go and then sent out arrests for them. So that seems pretty similar to what's happening here with Trump, trying to win by diplomatic means, but then also doing some less than diplomatic and less than democratic, democratic means Trump's winning, doing some less than democratic actions once he has that power to actually get rid of his political enemies. So to me, my answer, if I'm asked, what is your biggest issue this election year, it would honestly be fighting fascism, because I think we've arrived at that point. We have, again, a choice between liberalism and Kamala Harris. I know she's not the best candidate. I know she doesn't inspire hope in people that want actual change. But you know what the actual change is going to be? It's going to be if Trump gets elected for a second term. He knows all of the people he needs to get rid of. He knows all of the people that he can replace them with that are going to do everything he tells them to. And he's going to do it. There's nothing that's going to stop him. And we already have so much evidence of him acting like a complete child who is just, this country was hanging on by just a few people that did the right thing, that stopped Trump from following his worst instincts. And now he's getting rid of them. And between all of this, I mean, Steve Bannon talking about how if you're not willing to go to prison for working for Donald Trump, I think that's the most indicative. These people know what they're doing is either bordering on illegal or completely illegal, and they just don't care. They have Trump protecting them. And this is just Trump's MO, right? He does crime after crime after crime, and he's just too big to really get dragged down by everything. Even when you have all of these federal prosecutors coming after him for these huge crimes of insurrection and, mishandling government documents and sending them off to, or showing them off to foreign nationals. He's just he has enough momentum where he can just continue to do these things until he can't anymore. Anyway, people, vote. If you weren't planning on voting, vote anyway. You'd rather have things stay the same than have a fascist in charge of every lever of power in the government. I can't put it any more clearly than that.